If you look at the memes, Erling Haaland is this horrifying Norse cyborg Neanderthal sent here by some secret football lab to ruin every defender's weekend. He is massive, he's efficient, and he moves with this calculated, cold-blooded geometry that makes you wonder if he's actually human or just a hyper-advanced goal-scoring engine running on a pre-programmed algorithm. If you spend any time on social media, and you've probably seen it, the internet treats this guy like an unstoppable force of nature, this terrifying Viking titan who only cares about one thing: put ball in back of net. But honestly, if this is all you know of Haaland, then you're missing out on something rather interesting for our time. The machine or hyper-masculine narrative is a bit of a superficial look at who this guy actually is. And frankly, it's a little bit lazy too. If you actually start paying attention to what this guy does when he's not smashing records or bulldozing through backlines, you'll realize the internet isn't obsessed with him because he's a freak of nature. They're obsessed because he's the weirdest, most genuine anomaly in professional sports right now. He's a total glitch in the system, and people are gravitating toward him because of this. I mean, there's all the clips, right? The one where he's the only player on the pitch actually handing a towel to a trainer instead of tossing it at their feet, or the random unprompted footage of him helping the support staff collect balls while the rest of his superstar teammates act like the people running the club are completely invisible. It's not just about being a nice guy, a now despised phrase thanks to the internet. It's that those moments of basic human decency that feel so jarring and so out of place that they hit like a ton of bricks for most people. It's actually kind of sad, really, when you think about it, too. I mean, we're so conditioned to expect elite athletes to act like they're the center of the solar system, to be distant, untouchable, and arrogant, that when we see someone show a shred of genuine humility, we treat it like a revolutionary act. It's edgy because it's the complete opposite of the toxic grind set masculinity that we usually get fed by the sports industrial complex. We're used to the guy who wakes up at 3 a.m, posts a photo of his protein shake before he taps out a grizzly bear, and then talks about owning the day. And Haaland, he's a giant for sure. And I mean, he's exceptionally talented too, and is very masculine. But he's also just a humble goofball who doesn't mind looking like a complete idiot for the cameras. And that's exactly why the internet has latched onto him. I think that we're now entering a new phase of masculinity, and it's definitely a healthier one, and thank God for that. I don't know about you guys, but I am exhausted by the performative dominance, the carefully curated PR images, and the fake intensity that is so manufactured that everyone recognizes it as just pure cringe. We're looking for someone who actually feels like a person, a decent man, not a brand asset or a litmus test. And that's where Haaland really breaks the mold. He's not trying to sell you a lifestyle or anything. He's just existing in this really strange sort of chaotic way that feels entirely his own. And the fact that he's become the biggest meme on the planet because of it, oh, I don't think that that's a mistake. That's the testimony to his likability. He's bridged the gap between being the most physically intimidating man on the pitch and the guy that you'd probably have the most fun with at a bar. That contrast between the Nordic cyborg Neanderthal versus the guy who looks like he's just happy to be alive, it's really the secret sauce to both influence and likability. And here's the kicker, pun intended, excuse me, why this goofball behavior actually is hitting harder than the standard PR polished persona. To understand it, I think that you have to look at the landscape that he's been operating within. For the last 20 years, we were stuck in the Messi versus Ronaldo loop, of football at least, but there's many other examples of this. And it was the gold standard, right? You had Messi, the guy who played like he was literally born with a ball glued to his feet. Pure, unfair generational instinct for sure. And then you had Ronaldo, the ultimate prototype of human discipline. The guy who treated his own body like a $500 million machine, constantly trying to perfect the craft. Those two guys, they weren't just players. They were sort of the definition of the untouchable one. They were fairly distant, they were serious, and frankly, they were kind of robotic in how much they demanded from themselves and everybody else around them too. They embodied that sort of stoic, hyper-masculine frame, and they lived in that high-altitude atmosphere where everything had to be perfect, everything had to be curated, and everything had to be about the pursuit of perfection. They were the apex, they were the gods. But then Haaland shows up, and he doesn't just enter the conversation, he literally changes the frequency entirely. He's not trying to convince you that he's the perfect curated man or anything like that. He's not out here posting those rise and grind photos from a private sterile gym at 4 a.m. every single morning to show you how much he's suffering for his art. Sure, the guy is obviously an absolute monster on the pitch. His goal per game stats are making Messi and Ronaldo's best years look like a fun weekend hobby. But his character, that's something else entirely. While the previous generation spent their entire careers maintaining this almost saint-like, unreachable status, Haaland is out here on social media doing the most hilarious and, well, normal human stuff. He's like posing with Shrek. He's wearing ridiculous cowboy boots. He's laughing at his own bad jokes, and he's clearly just having a good time with the boys. It's like he completely skipped the be a serious distant icon phase of the professional athlete's career roadmap and went straight to being a giant chaos-loving weirdo who happens to be the best striker in the world. And that's exactly why the hypermasculine narrative doesn't actually really stick. The internet loves a machine, sure. I mean, it's easy to analyze stats and point out why this or that athlete is better. Okay, I get it. But people don't identify with someone like this. People identify with the guy who seems like he's just as confused by his own success as we are. He's shattered the idea that being an elite athlete means you have to be a suit-wearing, PR-managed brand asset. He's proved that you can absolutely tear a defense to shreds in the 90th minute and go home and be a total approachable clown without losing an ounce of respect. That's not just a personality quirk too. That's really a total shift in what people are actually hungry for. We're moving away from the era of the untouchable godlike masculinity frame and settling into the era of the relatable Viking. That's how I term it anyway. And honestly, it's a lot more fun to watch and I'm all for it. I don't want to see another guy who acts like he's a CEO of a corporation. I want to see the guy who acts like he's just a regular dude who happened to win the genetic lottery. Someone who could genuinely contend with a grizzly bear, but also have a drink with me on the weekend, who I know has a heart of gold. But looking at the relatable thing for a second, because it's not as simple as him just being a nice guy. Honestly, Haaland is a masterclass in how to navigate the absolute dumpster fire that is the modern internet. Think about it. He's easily one of the most recognizable faces on the planet right now. But he treats his social media like he's running a messy, chaotic burner account. There's no high production, fancy lit B-roll of him brooding in a gym. There's none of those super scripted, this is my journey documentaries that feel like they were written by a committee. Instead, you get these grainy, low-effort videos that look like they were filmed by a mate at 3 in the morning. Or a picture right after a game where he's just come off the field and he hasn't even hit the showers yet. And that right there is the secret sauce. You see, the old school sports PR model, the I am untouchable, a focused athlete who only drinks water and sleeps on a cloud routine, it's dead, man. It's boring and, quite frankly, nobody believes it anymore. It was always inhumane. When a celebrity tries that hard to be perfect, it just feels fake and cheap and everyone can feel it. But when Haaland posts something, it doesn't feel like an engagement strategy. It feels like he's actually truly living in his own head, which, let's be real, seems like a pretty strange place to be, but it's the fact that he's completely comfortable in his own skin that everyone is drawn to. This creates a kind of connection that's actually really honest, because he doesn't just seem to be filtering his personality to fit some safe, advertiser-friendly brand. Fans feel like they're actually sort of in on the joke a bit. And it's not that it just feels like he's relating with the people. He actually is when he does these things. He's not talking at us. He's just existing in this weird, unfiltered way that's impossible to look away from. When he does something random, it's not a brand move. That's just Haaland. And in the age where every single photo on the internet is aggressively edited and curated, that authenticity is hitting like a lightning bolt. The algorithms absolutely eat this up too, because they're geared towards audiences. TikTok, Instagram, Snapchat, all of them, they love him. And why? Because it's high energy, it's unpredictable, and it's gold for the internet. You don't scroll past a 6'5" Norse god dancing in a hotel hallway or making a weird face at the mirror. You stop, you watch, and you laugh at it, and you send it to 5 friends. He's basically hacked the attention economy without even trying, which demonstrates how powerful authenticity really is. You see, I think he's realized something that most other stars are just too scared to admit. In 2026, being perfect is actually sort of a disadvantage, really. If you're too polished, you're just another brand, an asset. But if you show up as a hyper-talented, slightly unhinged human who's clearly just having a good time, well, you become an icon pretty quickly. He's shifted the goalposts, again, pun intended. We aren't just watching him to see if he scores, we're watching to see what he does when the whistle blows, or even what crazy antics he's going to get up to on the field. And the fact that he lets us see that side of him without caring if we think it's cool or not is why that parasocial bond feels so much more real than we're used to. You don't feel like you're watching a superstar, you feel like you're rooting for a buddy on the side of the field. Now, if you're a traditional sports fan, then this stuff feels like a total fever dream. I get it, I know, but you've got millions of people. A lot of them couldn't care less about the offside rules, obsessed with this bizarre meme-worthy snapshot of this guy. But people need to understand, especially the traditional sports fans, that when the internet latches onto him like this, they aren't just making funny pictures. They're crafting a persona that is fundamentally the opposite of the stoic warrior trope that we've been force-fed for like 30 years now. Again, people are so hungry for something way more authentic and are completely over the synthetic hero archetype. Think about the images that stick with this guy. Him holding a random trophy like a confused toddler, the weird wide-eyed stares at the camera during post-match interviews, the photos of him in the ridiculous avant-garde outfits that look like they were pulled from a Western movie. Every one of these is a defiance of the tough guy playbook. For decades, the manual for being an elite male athlete was pretty much written in stone too. Be silent, be aggressive, look like you're ready to punch straight through a brick wall, and never, ever look like you're actually having fun. It was suffocating and hyper-masculine performance that made these guys look like statues and not people. But Haaland? He is literally the anti-statue type. The memes work because they highlight his sheer, unadulterated weirdness. He doesn't try to curate the cool image. He embraces the awkwardness. Whether he's making a face that belongs in a horror movie or just standing there looking like a giant who's accidentally wandered into the wrong room, he owns it. And by owning it, he strips away that untouchable, godly sort of aura. He's showing us that you don't have to be the silent, brooding predator to be considered masculine. You can be the guy who looks like he's having a minor existential crisis in a press conference and still go out and absolutely dismantle the best defenders on the planet. It's not just relatable, it's a total subversion of what we think a winner looks like. We've been living in this era of the perfect athlete, the guy whose diet, sleep, and PR team have optimized every single second of his life until he's basically a human press release. Haaland, though, he feels like a total glitch in the matrix. He's a reminder that even at the absolute peak of professional sports, you don't have to turn yourself into a product. You can just be a weird, chaotic, funny human being and still be successful and a whole man. And that's the real power of the memes. You see, they're not just jokes, they're sort of more than that. They're a rebellion against the idea that greatness requires you to be synthetic. And I think that that's exactly why the internet loves and protects him so much. He's the one guy who's actually having fun out there. And in a world where everyone is trying so hard to be on brand, that's the most rebellious thing that he could possibly do. But let me pause on this for a moment too, and let me get into the part that actually really matters about all of this. The part that hits a little bit deeper. You see, we're talking about healthy masculinity sort of in the backline here, but not the preachy internet red pill curated version of it. I'm talking about how Haaland is fundamentally rewriting the job description of what a man's man looks like at pinnacle sports. For generations, the alpha archetype in football was built on a foundation of performative toughness. I mean, you had to be the guy who didn't blink, who treated the support staff like they were invisible furniture, and who kept his emotions locked in a safe because showing them was a sign of weakness. You had to float above everyone else to become Hercules. It was a cold, lonely way to exist. It was the my way or the highway mentality that has kept the ecosystem of masculinity so toxic for so long too. Then you look at Haaland, and he just doesn't play by the rules. Those viral moments that I mentioned earlier, where he's actually helping the kit man or showing genuine, unpretentious respect to the people who work in the background, or where he takes some time to joke around with some kids or whatever, that isn't just being a nice guy. It's an act of defiance against the entire hierarchy that the current status quo has acknowledged. He's acknowledging that he's not the center of the universe. He's part of a team, and the people holding the towels or collecting the balls are just as much a part of that team as he is. Every man counts. Every man matters. It's edgy because it's a quiet rejection of the I'm the star, everyone else is just here to serve me mentality that most hyper-masculine schmucks spend their entire lives cultivating. By treating the little guys with actual respect, he's showing that true strength doesn't require looking down on people to feel big. Instead, lowering oneself and serving others. That's true strength and true reliability. It's the ultimate I'm comfortable in my own skin sort of flex. He doesn't need to bark orders at his teammates or act like he's the king of the castle to prove his dominance, because everyone already knows that he's the best player on the pitch. His confidence is quiet and wholesome. And this is a massive cultural shift. I mean, we're seeing a generation of lads and athletes who are tired of the old school, chest-beating, toxic bravado. They're looking for someone who can be a titan of the industry on the field and just a decent, grounded human being off of it. Haaland is proving that you don't have to sacrifice your humanity to be a winner or a masculine man. He's making kindness and humility look good again, and that is a massive threat to the old guard ego. And you know what? It's not soft. It's actually harder to be that guy. It takes way more guts to be the one guy who's laughing, helping out, and acting like a human when everyone around you is trying to be a stone-cold killer. He's showing that masculinity isn't about being a brick wall. It's about having the strength to be real. And frankly, to me at least, that's a hell of a lot more impressive than just scoring goals. For about 30 years, the alpha male blueprint in sports was written by guys who probably practiced their I am an emotionless robot face in the mirror for like 3 hours a day. They walked through the world with the main character complex in a gritty, low-budget action movie, treating the support staff like they were poorly programmed NPCs and keeping their emotions locked tighter than a bank vault because heaven forbid anyone saw them have a human moment. It was fundamentally just a performance, and it was exhausting, and frankly, it's kind of pathetic. But then, here is a true man who is literally built in a lab, a 6'5", blonde Nordic-looking titan who runs like a gazelle and scores like he's playing against traffic cones. By every metric of the old-school alpha playbook, he should be the king of this toxic, ego-driven, chest-beating nonsense. He should be the guy who demands his own private locker room, refuses to speak to anyone under a certain pay grade, and gives post-match interviews like he's reading a hostage note. But instead, he's out there looking like he's just happy to be at a birthday party that he wasn't even invited to. When you see the clips of him actually folding his own kit, or genuinely dapping up the laundry staff like they're actually human beings, it feels sort of weirdly transgressive for our time. It's like watching a bear walk into a shop and start organizing the shelves or something. And I think that that's because we're just so used to greatness being synonymous with being a total jerk that when someone with that level of power shows a shred of humility, we don't know how to process it. And this is where I think the cultural shift part is getting pretty spicy. You see, we're living in a world where everyone is trying to sell you on the grind set. I mean, you've got influencers on like every corner telling you to wake up at 4 a.m, ice bath your soul, and treat every interaction like a business transaction. It's the CEO of my own life plague, really. And Haaland? Well, he's the antidote to that insufferable performative trash. He's showing the world that you can be absolutely ruthless at your job, you can be the undisputed best in the world, and you don't have to be a miserable hyper-masculine freak to do it. You can be the guy who makes weird faces, wears silly outfits, and helps out the support staff. And guess what? You still win. In fact, I would argue that you win even more because you aren't carrying around the dead weight of your own fragile ego. It's edgy because it's a total rejection of the suffer to succeed mantra. He's proving that being a real man doesn't mean having the emotional range of a brick wall. It means being secure enough in your own skin to not need the approval of people that you're stepping on to feel big. He's taking the tough guy myth and laughing at it while having a great time with others. We're moving away, finally, and thank God for this, from the era where we mistake arrogance for leadership. And that is a huge threat to the old guard. No doubt there's a whole generation of guys watching this, some on the pitch, but way more sitting on their couches, who are realizing that the Stone Cold Killer Act is actually a massive L. It's way better, much harder, and much more impressive to be the guy who's grounded, decent, and a little bit weird than it is to be the guy who thinks that he's an untouchable god. Haaland is just out here living his life, and in so doing so, he's making the alpha archetype look like the midlife crisis it actually is. It's a cultural correction, and honestly, it's about damn time. Like, for instance, when things go sideways in your own life, you miss a deadline, you don't achieve that goal that you set out to do or whatever, or you just have a week where you feel like you're failing at existing. I have those from time to time too. What's your go-to move? I mean, people get defensive, we might make excuses, or maybe we pretend that we're like 100% fine while internally sobbing or something. We've been conditioned to think that failing is a moral indictment, and we act like we have to be untouchable gods to prove that we're worth something. It's exhausting, and it's fake, and it's a one-way ticket to a total nervous breakdown too. That's why Haaland is so helpful here. He treats a bad day like he's just dropped an ice cream. Yeah, it's annoying, but he's not going to launch a formal inquiry into the cosmic justice of it all or anything. I don't know if you guys remember this, but there was this Stay Humble debacle. If you don't know, here's the TLDR of it. The Stay Humble incident started when he sort of famously and cheekily taunted one of Arsenal's players with the phrase, "Stay humble, eh?" after a chaotic draw, an act that many saw as pure, unadulterated arrogance. Predictably, too, the football world waited for the inevitable ego-fueled meltdown when Arsenal later exacted their revenge by mocking his signature meditation celebration. But instead of engaging in the typical exhausting theater of a locker room feud or launching a Twitter war to protect his brand, Haaland simply just sort of shrugged it off by acknowledging the mockery as fair play and refusing to play the victim. He effectively neutralized the bait, turning what could have been a PR disaster into a masterclass in emotional autonomy. It proved that he isn't interested in the performative drama that defined the previous generation of superstars. He's far too busy ignoring the noise to care about the scoreboards of ego. Haaland, he just sort of leaned into the absurdity, and he basically gave a giant metaphorical shrug, like water off a duck's back, and kept moving. And again, that isn't being a nice guy. That is an absolute top tier power move, if you ask me. I mean, when you can look at your own failures, call it out for what it is, and refuse to let it bruise your ego, you sort of become bulletproof. I mean, seriously, think about it. If you aren't afraid of looking like an idiot, well, nobody can hurt you. Haaland's version of resilience is basically acknowledge the L, own the awkwardness, and get back to work. He's not walking around like he's the main character in some tragic high-stakes biopic. He's just Erling. He's the guy who happens to be a freak of nature at football, but he's smart enough to know that being a superstar is just a job description, really, not a personality trait. Everyone else is trying to build a personal brand that is so carefully curated that it looks like a corporate museum exhibit. They seem to be terrified that if they drop the mask for even 1 second, the whole thing is just going to shatter. But Haaland, he's walking around with the mask in his back pocket, and he's constantly making weird faces, posting cursed memes, and acting like a human being, heaven forbid. So here's our takeaway for the next time our lives turn into a dumpster fire, which will inevitably happen. We need to stop taking ourselves so seriously. When we get caught out of position, don't double down. Don't invent some grand narrative about how the haters are coming for us or whatever. Just own it. Laugh at the absurdity of it. Learn the lesson and move on. Resilience isn't about being a stone-cold statue that never cracks. It's about being the person who can crack, fix the split, and keep winning without turning into a bitter, stress-filled mess. And if a 6'5" goal-scoring machine can be a total weirdo and still dominate the world, well, what's our excuses? We need to stop trying to be a polished, stress-filled robot. It's a miserable way to live, too. Being a human who happens to be great at what they do, well, that's the ultimate flex, right? For way too long, the culture has handed us a pre-written, laminated, and soul-crushing manual on how to be successful and masculine. We've been led to believe that if you aren't constantly projecting an image of untouchable perfection, then you're losing. We've been told that vulnerability is a structural weakness, and that your brand is more important than your actual heartbeat. Haaland, he is the living, breathing, Viking-sized glitch that proves that that manual is complete garbage. Haaland is the first guy that I've seen in a long time who looked at the expectations placed on him and decided that they just weren't worth the cost of admission. By choosing to stay grounded, by choosing to be chaotic, awkward, and a meme-making human, he hasn't traded status for relatability. He's actually weaponized both of them. He's winning our loyalty because he's the only one left in the room who isn't trying to sell us a curated lie. So again, how do we actually apply the Haaland blueprint to our own lives? Whether you're grinding in a cubicle, leading a team, trying to create a YouTube channel, or just trying to figure out who you are when nobody's watching, it comes down to, I think, these 4 pillars. So 1, burn the main character screenplay. I mean, we spend an obscene amount of energy trying to edit our lives to fit a specific aesthetic or vibe. We mute our opinions, filter our struggles, and curate our personalities so that we don't look cringe. We need to really stop this. It's exhausting, and Haaland remains just Erling because he's actually comfortable within his own baseline. He knows he's a titan on the pitch, but he doesn't mistake his output for his identity. You aren't your job title. You aren't the highlight reel that you post online. You're just you. And the sooner that we stop trying to direct the movie of our own lives for an imaginary audience, the sooner that we can actually start living in it. 2, weaponize your own weirdness. Now, there is this paralyzing fear today that if we show our true colors, we'll be mocked. We're terrified to be enthusiastic about uncool things or to express ourselves in a way that doesn't follow the trend cycle. But look at the internet's obsession with Haaland. They don't love him despite his awkwardness. They love him because it's the one and only real thing in a landscape of plastic personalities. Your quirks, they aren't your bugs, they're your features. They are the only things that make you a human being, a unique one, instead of just another carbon copy. So, embrace the stuff that makes you stand out. 3. resilience is just laughing at the dumpster fire. So when your life inevitably hits a brick wall, you've got two choices, right? You can get defensive, double down on your ego, and try to convince everyone that your mistake was actually a deliberate strategic pivot or whatever. Or you can do the Haaland move. Acknowledge the L, own the awkwardness of the moment, laugh at the sheer stupidity of the situation, and get back to work. If you stop being afraid of looking like an idiot, you become bulletproof. Nobody can humiliate you if you're already the one leading the chorus. And number 4, decency is the ultimate rebellion. In a world that worships at the altar of the loudest guy in the room, choosing to be genuinely decent is a radical act. Treating people with respect, not because it's a career-advancing move, but because you're secure enough to not need to step on anyone to feel tall, that really is the ultimate flex, and everyone can see it. It is shockingly easy to be a jerk when you think that you're better than everyone else, and it takes actual profound strength to be a human when nobody's looking. So, we're finally moving out of the era of the script and into an era that actually values the human element of masculinity. And this is good for many reasons, but also because the next generation of icons, they aren't going to be the ones who act like cold, distant CEOs or perfectly programmed press releases or whatever. They're going to be the ones who can tear the world apart, go home, and make a stupid joke about how weird it all was. And look, we're all just trying to navigate this chaotic, noisy, high-pressure reality, right? And if you can do it while keeping your head, staying grounded, and keeping your sense of humor intact, even when the rest of the world is taking itself way too seriously, it's not just a win, that's really a life well lived. So, let's not forget to go ahead and be a little bit unhinged from time to time, right? Embrace the mess, stay human, and remain humble. Because in a world that's constantly trying to turn you into a standardized product, being the weird, honest, chaotic version of yourself is the only victory that really actually matters. And in the spirit of embracing this humility, what do you guys think about everything that I've said here? Do you think that I've hit the nail on the head, or do you disagree? Let me know in the comments below. Keep it real, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching.